Jain students, again I am with the chapter The Portrait of a Lady by Khushwant Singh. So you have read that the author and his grandmother, they were there in the village. After that they settled in city with his parents, and now let's see what happens. As the years rolled by, we saw less of each other. Means the author was busy when he had to go to school and he had to read, so hardly they would meet each other. And for sometimes she continued to wake me up and get me ready for school. She would wake up him and get ready for school. When I came back, she would ask me about the school, whatever I was taught. So I would tell her English words and little Western science and learning, the law of gravity, Archimedes' principle, the world being round, etc. So the author would tell some English words and Western science and law of gravity, Archimedes' principle, and about geography. Then his grandmother was not able to understand because she didn't know English and she didn't study. She had not studied Western science and law of gravity and its principles, and also means geography. So she was not taking interest and she could not help him. This made her unhappy, and she could not help me with my lessons. She did not believe in the things they taught at the English school and was distressed, means upset, and she was not happy that there was no teaching about God and scriptures. So she was little bit unhappy, upset that religion and God and scriptures, these all are not taught to the students. So she was not satisfied. One day I announced that we were being given music lessons. She was very disturbed. To her, music had lewd association. It was the monopoly of her lords and beggars and not meant for gentle folk. So she would consider music as a very vulgar, cheap, and it is always associated with we can say it is bad words. It is bad word for that, means call girls and for beggars. So she had not accepted it for gentle folk. She said nothing, means she was silent listening this about music, but her silence meant her disapproval. Now she rarely, means hardly, she would talk to the author. When I went up to university, I was given a room of my own. The common link of friendship was snapped, means taken away, and my grandmother accepted her secularism with resignation. So it's also phrase. It means that she accepted her alone, being alone. She accepted being alone without any objection, and she rarely left her spinning wheel, means she kept busy herself on that spinning wheel to talk to anyone, and she was keeping herself busy, and from sunrise to sunset she sat by her wheel spinning and reciting prayers. So only in the afternoon she relaxed for a while to feed the sparrow. So from the morning till the evening she would keep herself busy on spinning wheel, and also she would recite prayers, and after that she would feed the sparrows. Now means these activities she had made to keep herself busy while she sat in the veranda breaking the bread into little bits. Hundreds of little birds collected round her, creating a veritable bedlam of chirping. Means when she would make many bites of the chapatis, of the bread into many pieces. So all the sparrows, they would gather her and they started chirping. Now, some came and perched on her legs. Perched means to sit. And some of them, they would come and they would sit on her leg, and others on her shoulders. Some even sat on her head, and she smiled but never shooed them away. She would smile, but she never just scold them to just flow away, but she was accepting, and she was just trying to serve them. It used to be the happiest half hour of the day for her. Means she would be very happy while she would give bread to those sparrows. When I decided to go abroad for further studies, I was sure my grandmother would be upset. When it was decided that the author will have to go to out of country, so he thought that she would be upset, she would be disturbed, she would not be ready to accept. But I would be away for 5 years, and the author was away for 5 years, and at her age one could never tell, but my grandmother could. She was not even sentimental. She was not sentimental, and she came to leave me at the railway station, but did not talk or show any emotion. Her lips moved in prayer, means she was keeping prayer continue, and her mind was lost in prayer. Her fingers were busy telling the beads of her rosary. Rosary was in her hand, and she was busy in praying God, and she was spelling something inside her mouth. It was not clear. Now silently she kissed my forehead, and when I left, I cherished the moist imprint as perhaps the last sign. And he was thinking, means the author was thinking that maybe I will not be able to see my grandmother again. So he was little bit depressed, because old persons means we just think na whether we will meet or not. So this condition was with author also, but that was not so. After 5 years I came back home and was met by her at the station. But after 5 years he saw his grandmother at the station, as she was there to just receive him, and he did not look a day older. She was not looking much older. She was as she was before. So she still had no time for words, and while she clasped me in her arms, clasped means hugging. When she hugged him in her arms, I could bear her reciting her prayers. Means she was always busy in reciting her prayers. I think this is very good thing for the old people to keep busy themselves. And she was also praying, she was also hugging her grandson. And even on the first day of my arrival, her happiest moments were with her sparrows, whom she fed longer and with frivolous rebukes. Means she was scolding, she would scold, she would rebuke those sparrows, but not seriously. It was light-hearted scolding. So it was about the author's meeting again with his grandmother. And in the evening a change came over her. She did not pray. When the author came back on the same day, it was evening time, she did not pray. She collected the women of the neighborhood and got an old drum. It was not in well condition. It was an old drum. And for several hours she thumped the sagging skin of the dilapidated drum. So she was beating the drum that was worn, and that was old drum, and sang of the homecoming of warriors. And she would sing songs of warriors. warriors means as the author returned home, and she was just singing the homecoming songs. See here, homecoming song. As she was welcoming her grandson, we had to persuade. Persuade means to just press to do something. Force means we had to force her to stop, to avoid overstraining, because she was very old lady. So all family members, they persuaded, they forced her not to do that, because it could be harmful for her physical health. But she continued, and that was the first time since I had known that she did not pray. First time she did not pray, instead she was singing. The next morning she was taken ill. Next morning she was taken ill, as it was her end, and it was a mild fever, and the doctor told us that it would go. And doctor was assured that it would go and she will be well. And but my grandmother thought differently, but she was thinking opposite of the doctor. Means whatever doctor was saying, it was just opposite from that, as she was confirmed that her end was near. She told us that her end was near, and she said that since only a few hours before the close of the last chapter of her life, she had omitted to pray. Omitted means to speak something and to utter. So she just prayed. She was not going to waste any more time talking to us. So she would praying, or she would pray and she would talk also. We protested, means with author and his family members. They protested not to do that, not to take stress, but she ignored our protests, and she lay peacefully in bed, praying and telling her beads, rosary, mala. She was keeping continue her prayers. And even before we could suspect, her lips stopped moving and the rosary fell from her lifeless fingers. So these words are indicating words that his grandmother was no more at that time. A peaceful pallor, pallor means dull, sadness spread on her face, means on her face there was peace, there was dullness on her face, and we knew that she was dead. We lifted her off the bed and, as is customary, laid her on the ground and covered her with a red shroud. Shroud means funeral covering cloth. So author and with all family members, they just lifted her body off the bed, and